Rugby Show live here in Maryland Soccerplex for the 15th Collegiate Rugby Championship. Day 2, show 2. We're like, I don't know how many hundreds of games into this thing, but we are into the triple digits, that's for sure. We got a lot to catch you up on. I'm joined as always by Darian Lovelace, Steve Lewis, Zach Laning. Let's dive right into some of the action, shall we, right? We've got a ton of action. It's championship day for the men. In every division, we are to the finals. We have some semifinals to run down. Zach, take us through it.
You got it, Ben. It's my pleasure. We had some awesome semifinal matchups here today. There were so many great games across a bunch of divisions. I want to start, I think, in Division 3. That's where, I am from here. That's my people there, and those games were fantastic. We had the first game on this slate today, the Battle of the Titans. Springfield, the 2-seed, Slippery Rock, the presumptive favorite. Springfield capitalized on a late yellow card by the Rock to win 17-12, okay? Springfield coach Luke Saul said they knew they were capable of getting the stadium here in day 2, and now they're going to maybe get the top prize. On the other side, you have Wisconsin Eau Claire taking down a strong Duke team. Calvin Schmitz for the Blue Gold wants it bad. I've seen him all weekend around. He's making it happen for them. They are going to have give Springfield everything they can handle here in the final later on for D3. Moving on to D2, Montana State proving their upset of favorite IUP not a fluke. All right, they have locked up their spot in the final here, beating Coastal Carolina 12-7 in that one for D2. Some people's favorite here late in the tournament, Colorado Mesa, the 3-seed in D2 coming out. Their strong campaign of the weekend came to a pretty abrupt end, I think, in the semis here. They had a 12-0 defeat to UNC Wilmington. Jackie Martinez had a strong weekend for Mesa. He had 3 tries on the weekend and 7 conversions, but it was not enough for them to pull it out. You see some highlights here of Montana State taking it over Coastal Carolina. That was a close one. That was a rock fight. Moving into Division I club, okay, we had 2-seed NC State. Wolfpack, my favorites here, taking down presumptive favorite Louisville with relative ease. It was shocking to me. 26-5. They pulled that one out. They've been taking the teams all weekend here, all throughout the bracket. They got on top of Louisville early from the opening whistle. Hugh Redden, 7 tries on the weekend for the Wolfpack. Pretty impressive stuff. On the other side, the upset bowl, UMass and UNC Charlotte, 2 lower seeds coming out of that side of the bracket. That was a close game. Both teams wanted to keep their winning streak, their Cinderella runs alive here. Only one could win, unfortunately, and it was UNC Charlotte, the triumph, 10-7 over UMass. The Minutemen falling there, really, really close one. You also had the Premier side, those semis just wrapped up a little before we started taping here. You had St. Bonaventure after taking down 1-seed Iowa Central. It's getting windy here. Makes my bracket look extra bad because I had them losing to Clemson early on, but Bonnies win a rock fight over Belmont Abbey to secure their spot in the final. Harry Healy had a brace for the Bonnies in this one. Wheeling, on the other side, absolutely dominated a pretty dangerous Queen's University side in their semifinal. When they get rolling, it's a thing of beauty to watch Wheeling. They're so smooth, so fluid. They really make you pay for the smallest mistake that you make as well. Shadrach Mondaza start for the Cardinals that he so often does, throughout his career there. So those were the semis. It was a hell of a game here, or a hell of a weekend so far. We got those finals coming up too. I can't wait for those games. We got to talk about something, Pat. There's one state in particular that has had themselves a time here, and that is North Carolina. Those teams, 18-0 yesterday. We have 2 North Carolina teams in the finals, the D1 club, and plenty of other North Carolina teams as well. It's pretty impressive to see all those wins from North Carolina teams.
The Seahawks still in it in Division 2, right? Going up against Colorado Mesa, which, if they win a national championship this weekend, it might be the second coolest thing they've won because they won the raffle for the Rhino tackle sled.
Oh, wow.
So that's a pretty big get right there, I'd say.
That is huge. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
amazing.
Well, let's dive into some of these men's Premier Cup semifinals, right? Wheeling finally looking like, they've had some rock fights, if you will, to steal your language throughout this tournament. But this last one, that win was why Wheeling was the number 1 overall seed. We saw them overwhelm a really good side. Tell me what you saw there, Steve. That was a fantastic performance by the Cards.
Offensive firepower, right? They've got it all across the board there. I mean, fast feet from the Zimbabweans, right? Fantastic names I will not attempt to pronounce. But when those guys are given a little bit of space, and that's probably the key to containing them and beating them, is starving them to the ball. But when they're firing, they're firing. Really impressive offensive performance from them.
And then, Belmont Abbey, I thought they might actually be the better matchup if they were to get through to the final because they were really physical, but they just weren't able to do it against the Bonnies. That was another fantastic final. What did you see in that game? I thought Manu Tuala played fantastic for the Bonnies.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I guess, it was just, it was a great game, solid performance on both sides. Belmont Abbey looked like they could have taken it in the end. It was a little back and forth, but, Bonnie's just too much for them there in the end.
So I've seen a lot of Bonnies this year, and their success is the defense. They are obstinate, and they work hard. Their ethic is good, and that's what I see as their strength. Good all-round talent, but their defense this whole spring has been phenomenal.
They're going to need a solid launch against Wheeling. I think that's the only way that you're going to be able to beat them.
This is why it's the perfect matchup.
Yeah, exactly. And I completely agree with you. I think that the Bonnies, one thing they do very well is the defense, and I think that they come up in a connected launch. The only way that you're going to beat Wheeling is if you're going to force a turnover. They can't have the ball for very long. Bonnies, I think it's going to be a good matchup because they're also good about really finding the space off of turnovers. So if they can get that unified launch, come up in the face of Wheeling, hope and pray that they don't have to take the contact, right? Wheeling is very tough. If they can kind of avoid contact at all costs, then I think that the Bonnies can contend. But they're creative. They've kicked. They've scored off of grubbers. They've got people that are patient enough to trust their midfielders to work it in the middle. And whenever you're going up against the Titans, which is Wheeling, I think that it's important to kind of maintain that composure. And I think that the Bonnies probably, like you said, it's the best matchup I think that we could possibly have in the Premier Cup for the two.
But what about this gale-forced wind we're dealing with? I mean, it's
I
pretty
didn't even
significant.
notice.
We've gotten a little bit of every season today here in Maryland, as we do at the Collegiate Rugby Championship from time to time. This is bananas. This is the heaviest wind we've had all weekend. No doubt it's going to affect passes. It's going to affect conversions. I mean, Steve?
Well, you got to be aware of it first, right? So their warm-ups really, you don't have enough time to worry about that. But if you're a kicker, and actually we've seen kickers not do that. We've seen a lot of kicks not go 10 today, particularly into the wind. So I don't understand why, when you do it wrong once, why you would, punch it a little deeper. Really, you're looking for height. Not looking for that perfect kick 12 meters from the center spot, And so I think that's been a failing. People haven't really adjusted to the wind as of yet.
So we got going to make a championship team as far as like the adjustment, right? And we're going to see that throughout the team that's going to be able to adjust with the conditions, with the fatigue, with the grit that's going to come along with it. That's going to be the one that's going to go ahead and be our national champion.
You mentioned it in the previous show, 6 to 10 possessions is really all you usually get in a half of sevens rugby. That's 12 to 20 times you're going to be able to have the ball. And if the wind causes 1 or 2 extra mistakes, that could beat the game.
Exactly.
Right. So it's unfortunate, but whoever handles the some of the controllables or even uncontrollables the best is going to have a good chance of winning. Well, that's what we've got. Wheeling Cardinals, St. Bonaventure Bonnies. Rip up your bracket. There's only 2 teams left in a men's Premier Cup. Only 2 teams left across the board in all the men's action. The women, we got quite a few left because their championships are tomorrow. When we come back, we're going to dive right into that here on the College Rugby Show.
Let's get ready. Major League Rugby is now.
This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year.
The Rugby Network is giving you all the free MLR content you want, live and on demand. Never miss a hit, never miss a try, never miss your team. MLR on TRN. Never miss a match.
In our game, we play with our hearts. We don't play with sticks, bats, or gloves. We don't wear shoulder pads or helmets. We keep playing when it hurts. And we leave everything on the field. What we wear must be built for our game.
We're back here at windy and wonderful Boyd's, Maryland to talk about the women's action today. 4 divisions, all hunting for a national championship, and we are a couple rounds closer than the last time we talked to you. Darian, let's get everybody caught up on what happened today.
Hey, I'll tell you, there are a lot of things that blew me away today. The weather, and then also just the competition alone that was in the women's brackets. We had a couple of teams be able to make it out. We'll start out with the women's D3. Drury University now is going to go ahead and play against Endicott after they beat Niagara 26-21, right? So Drury University, we talked about how it's their first time at the CRCs. We talked about what it's going to mean for them to be able to kind of push their way through now and have a shot, seeing as how we're going to have a new champion, right? Yale's knocked out of the competition, but then coming up next is going to be East Stroudsburg versus Baldwin-Wallace. Baldwin-Wallace also looks very technically sound, 17-12. They barely beat Platteville, so a lot of these teams are going to be beat up out of the D3. It was pretty close competitions. You know, the farthest was 19-7 Miracosta whenever East Stroudsburg beat them. So the games were really tough, but they got pretty beat up. So the next matches for them are going to be a heavy ask from the coaching staff. Women's D2, Coast Guard, number 1 seed. They beat Colorado Mines 25-12. They're just going to continue to do what they do best, which is win games. We kind of expected that from them. They know how to navigate through rough waters, pun always intended, but they're going to play Towson. Now, Towson beat Coastal Carolina 26-10. So again, we might have a little bit of an upset. Marist is going to go ahead and play Roger Williams. Roger Williams and Marist both, just really did a number on the competition. 26-7 for Marist over New Mexico State and 29-7 over Bowling Green. So those ones, you could kind of tell who was going to end up in the Final Four. But finally, with the women's D1, Northeastern, I talked to them a little bit, and I didn't realize who they were, and somebody said, number 1 seed. And I was like, own it, girlfriend. Show us how it's done, and they did 20-15 over Notre Dame College. They're going to play against Northern Iowa after they beat UCF 26-5. That knocked out the Florida team, and then the other Iowa team then knocked out Florida State. So 17-5. They're also going to play. So we could have an Iowa final. Maybe, but Iowa's going to play against Purdue. They beat UMass 24-14. So again, all of these teams right now are vying for everything. Tomorrow's going to be pretty stiff competition now that we made it through day 1.
There's no love lost there between some of those Iowa programs. I can promise you that. They're in different conferences, even though they're in the same state. So if it was a UNI Iowa final, that would be a fun one for everybody involved. Absolutely. Iowa doing fantastic. North Carolina doing it fantastic. The state of Missouri, my hometown, not showing us much, the Show Me State, except for the Drury Panthers, who are holding it down, right, doing their best. And this is their first ever postseason rugby of any kind. 7s, 15s, a very new program. And Katie Scott's done a great job to get them up to the snuff this quickly and on the precipice. How will they do? It's going to be really fun to watch. Conversely, in Division 2, Coast Guard, they have been to the doorstep, to the altar many times, and just not been able to seal the deal. So that's been a tough one for them. Let's dive a little bit deeper here into the Premier Cup, right? That's the big one. That's the one everybody's champing at the bit to talk about. Roz Brown's campaign for 5 is still well and alive. What did you think about those her first and second round matchups there, Darren?
Whenever we interviewed her, she said that she was going to bring out the secret weapons, and I had said something like give Muller a cuddle puddle of the Bears, and then all of a sudden she brought out these like rugged Brown Bears. Like, we saw the physicality that we knew that Brown was capable of, but in that first matchup I think that they worked kind of well to kind of get the kinks out, but then whenever they came in and they played that second match, they just looked strong, they looked aggressive, they looked fit, and that's what Ross is known for, right? She plays this very intelligent style of rugby, and you can see that Brown is completely bought into that. AIC, they're going to play against them, coached by T. Fletcher. I saw them as they were walking out, and T. Fletcher, obviously, she's always looking to kind of grow, so she threw out a couple of critiques, and I said, well, at least you get the opportunity to work on it, and she's like, that's what we're here for. So they're just out there looking for the competition. They're going to find it in Brown University. Again, Brown is really trying to get Ross on her 5th title. You can see their cohesion. They're cheering for each other. But AIC, they said that they have a family. You should have heard those boys out there cheering for them. And sometimes that belief, if you can get a group of people to believe in you, that can sometimes tip the scales a little bit. You could see that they were kind of getting a little fatigued, so they'll have to recover well, because Brown University, at the end, they walked off like it was nothing.
To steal a line from the late, great Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. You're putting AIC against Brown already? They got to beat West Point.
Brown
they
has to beat West Point. Army's playing AIC. Oh, you're right. You're right. And we've got to talk. You have to talk about Army.
So just for the avoidance of any doubt as to who I'm supporting, West Point, Women's Army Rugby. They've had a good morning as well, actually, 2 comfortable wins. But what I think it sets up to some of your points is real contrast in style. Army playing quite good technical sevens. They look quite fast, not particularly physical. Brown, you're quite correct, very physical, dominant physically. And AIC's kind of a tweener in the middle. I know we're ignoring Penn State at the moment, but I think whoever emerges from there, if it's Brown Army or it's Brown AIC, you're going to see that contrast in style, which is great for a neutral. But I'm still going for Army.
As you should. Alone, Fiatoa, the number 8, her alone in the midfield with Morales, they both are probably, to me, the best second to last attackers in men's or women's, personally, in my opinion. You've got 2 that can kind of work those outsides really well. They cut the corners, they move the ball when they need to. So for me, they're the only team in my eyes that could really cause heartbreak for Brown University. My apologies, long day, but you're right, we can't discredit Penn State. Queens, they told me that they were trying to break the bracket, and then Penn State said, we're going to go ahead and be aggressive in this one too, and they took out Queens.
You go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, well, actually, it's good to see a resurgence of Penn State, actually, because it's a storied program. They dominated for a long time under Steinberg way back in the last 10 years, and they've had a couple of fallow years, right, the last 3 or 4. So it's great to see them back on a big stage competing and performing.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. I have to do a little mea culpa. Penn State, I was not familiar with your game. I had them losing in the first round here to Frostburg. I think that was a mistake. They look very strong, so I think they're going to make some noise here in the playoffs when they come around here at the end of this bracket. So
I don't have the stat 100%, but I feel very, very confident that no one's been to more Final Fours at the Collegiate Rugby Championship than the Penn State Nittany Lions. They know this well. They're back for the first time in a minute, but still an exciting matchup. Let's handicap it. You think Army's got the best chance of beating Brown? What are those chances?
I think that they're pretty high.
Okay.
I don't know.
50-50, 60-40? What are you thinking?
You're putting me in a really tough spot. If you ask Steve, he would probably say 100-0, so his stat might be better. It's tough because I think with Brown, it's like you want history to be made, but Army, they've been here twice before. Right? The last 2 years, they've been the runners-up. Last year, they almost beat Brown off of a breakaway try. So, to me, if you're chomping at the bit for that with the personnel that they kind of have, with the vibe of it being very calm, very settled, and sticking to the basics, doing the basics really well, that's the only way that you're going to cause mayhem for Brown University. They're going to be looking to stick it to them. They're going to be looking to do that heads-up play. But they've also got really good personnel. Nikki Lynch, the other number 8, that's a matchup I'm most looking forward to with Army's Fiatoa. But AIC, you can't count them out either. So to me,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
I can't.
AIC's the only team in this competition that has beaten Brown this year.
They can do it.
Naomi Dodd, speed. I know she can beat Akila Cathy in a foot race. You have to make it a foot race with the ball and movement and your shape. But I think they've got some people that can do some things, Steve.
Yeah, final point I'd add in is conditioning.
Correct.
Yeah. When you look at Brown and Army in particular as a contrast, I think it's not a deep tournament term. It's not like 6 games. We're really they're going to be playing 4 to win, right? So maybe it's not as big a factor, and trying to keep your key people not playing 12, 14 minutes every game. Army rested their 2 starters for that second game. Gamboa didn't play, and the winger whose name eludes me right now, fast winger, she didn't play, so they're fresh. So that conditioning may play a part later on.
That's a heck of a ballsy move, if we're being honest. My first-year head coach, Jen Salman. You got 2 MA Swords Award nominees. I only need 1 this game.
I'm not saying I agreed with it prior to the game.
Touche. The lizard was wrong every once in a while. All right, well, tons of great women's action. I do want to, before we throw it to break, let's just peek at Darian's bracket, see how she's doing, huh?
Let's see. Southern Nazarene. And let me tell you something, Queens.
A lot of red
there's not a lot of red. Watch your tone. Watch your tone. It'd be a real shame if you blew
pink.
away.
It's pink. There's a lot of pink
beautiful. There. Here's the deal, though, is that with Queens, I've got to shout them out. They are one of the teams from this Premier bracket right now that are really doing a good job of trying to build Southern rugby, right? They've got a good class coming in, and for me, I told them I'll be the villain in your story for saying that you didn't make it out, and they did.
Yeah, just one final point I think we should recognize Wheeling. right? Ken Pave's team. So they are not an NCAA team, so an NCR team, and they've come through. This is their first year at this level, right?
Yeah, this is their first seventh semester ever.
Exactly. So and they push Brown pretty hard. So I think we're going to tip the hat to them as well.
Without question. And if we don't, Alexis Dallas will find me in my hotel lobby, and that's the last thing I want.
I think she's right there in the parking lot, right by the car.
Right, I'm going the other way very soon. All right, that's going to do it for us right now. We'll be right back in just a minute here in Maryland Soccerplex. Talk a little bit more rugby in just a second.
In a sport of power and precision, you need a powerful and precise camera. Analyze your game. Build your team. Grow together.
Ready? Up.
Video captures moments. A powerful camera for a powerful sport.
Rugby!
Welcome back to Beautiful Boys here at the CRC Day 2, Show 2. We just wrapped up not only some hot rugby action, but also the Hall of Fame. This is the second year we've inducted a class of Hall of Famers. Former stars who were fantastic on this pitch, the pitches prior in New Orleans and Philadelphia. And let's talk about some of those people, all right? It's one of my favorite parts of the Hall of Fame. It's new, but this tournament, the Hall of Fame, it's one of my favorite parts of the tournament. But the Hall of Fame really connects the old CRC, right, the Philadelphia, and now. And the CRC was started in 2010. A year after the Olympics, were announced that they were going to be bringing sevens into the fold. We're now, fast forward 15 years later, we got a bronze medal in the shelf. And the men have done well. They've qualified for 2 Olympics. When the Olympics were announced, we were a long shot to ever even sniff it. So things have changed, and I can't help but think that some of these people here this weekend have helped change that. And some of these people here are people that you played against and with that we just inducted. A.K. Pedraza, your old Lindenwood Lions rival. Tell me about her. Tell the folks what a stud she was on the field.
I mean, she carved it up like it was Thanksgiving dinner. Like, arguably one of the best midfielders I'd played against. She was always very creative, and you couldn't expect what she was going to do next. She was always in the right place at the right time. That's why she got MVP whenever Linden would have won it their first year. So for me, playing against her, it was always you always wanted to have 2 people on the inside or the outside, and then she'd break away or she'd get an assist, and we were like, we thought you had her, where were you? But I mean, it's so well deserved for AK. Lindenwood, an incredible program. They've got stellar athletes that have come out of there, and they continue to produce those. But it's nice for AK to get the recognition, and she also gives a shout out to Lindenwood. The foundational members, they made the program what it was. So to see her get honored and have her moment, to me, it's very, very well deserved.
And of course, your former teammate Nicole Strasco. I've just got to say, she's one of the most physical, funnest, heaviest hitters I've ever watched play college rugby. And she got a few yellow cards, would you say?
Yeah.
She attacked that sin bin chair and launched off of it the exact same way she would launch off of a line and attack a ball carrier. She was fantastic. And
I mean, I'm so incredibly proud of her. She was part of the foundation as well, like I was saying. For Life was our first captain whenever they decided to kind of make the program school funded. And now seeing her be recognized for all of those accomplishments. She's a mom now. She came out with her sweet little boy. So I think everything that she also has is well deserved. She made rugby, to me, whenever they introduced the women's bracket, she made it so that people knew that we could be physical and aggressive. She was one of those trailblazers, and inspired players on our team like Megan Rom, who was on the side of a bus because she was a bus, and inspired players like with me as well, because after she left, taking on her captaincy and trying to even get up to that legacy, she really motivated people, and it's just trickled down since then. So for me, it's kind of a no-brainer that she got asked to come back and be a Hall of Famer. But to say that I'm proud of her would probably be an understatement. I'm
those
still
tears
wiping.
in your eyes?
I know,
Are those tears in your eyes?
Not the win.
Oh, I'm not okay. That's why I'm like fumbling the bag. Like, somebody plays tomorrow. 'Cause I'm so incredibly happy for her. And all of her accomplishments. So
I'm so happy we get to be here to give witness to you giving her witness, because it's been awesome.
To me, blubbering like a baby. Thanks.
Zach, Mr. D3, our first ever Division III Hall of Famer has been minted. Kayvon Williams, we had him on the show yesterday. What does it mean?
Everything, Pat. I mean, to be honest, like, you keep sitting me next to legends of the game at this desk here, and I pale in comparison, but one of the biggest honors of my life was to sit next to Kayvon yesterday and chat with him about his career and his accomplishments and what he's done. He did it, like the guys that I'm the commissioner of that division. Like, I see all these guys that play their hardest, and he's one of the ones that they look up to, because he really made it happen. And he was a beast on the field, represented for bald guys everywhere. I was watching that B-roll yesterday when he was playing at the Highlands. It was fantastic. But he was really a leader, and he was so gracious.
Give him one.
Thank you. He was so gracious with his time yesterday. He's a really wonderful guy. He's a leader, and that translated from his time, in college all the way through the national team. He was a captain of that team, and he's just an inspiring guy. He's a great player on the pitch, great gentleman off of it, and just a great, to see him honored today, doing it for all the Division III players out there.
And in many ways, poster child of NSCRO or National Collegiate Rugby, coming from D3, as you say, all the way to captain his country at an Olympics. That sums it up.
Olympic captain is a forever title, right?
Yeah.
And very few people ever get to say something like that, and Kayvon's one of them. And he came from Division III. He came from these pitches, New Mexico Highlands, from nowhere, right? And that's what we're trying to do here, is give people a platform to do it. That's what the CRC is all about, and Kayvon's been a fantastic example. And also great examples like Alex Magleby, who you've probably had the pleasure of coaching against and being around a number of times. CEO of the New England Free Jacks, won 2 titles here with Dartmouth. We had him on the show yesterday as well. Steve, just explain to those who don't know, the uninformed, what a legend Magleby is.
Yeah, so in terms of contribution to American rugby in a whole host of different positions, right? Represented the country as a player, coached the Sevens team. A lot of people forget he was instrumental. He was the director of HP, High Performance for USA Rugby, for 2-3 years as well, which was a lot to do with getting into Olympic Sevens and just setting up the framework for that stuff. And then latterly here, obviously, MLR, where he is a part owner and CEO of New England Free Jacks. So he's contributed at multiple levels, and he's had success at many levels. He's had success against me, and I've had success against him. I'm not saying he's my nemesis, but he's a great guy, great contribution, and he's still making that contribution. So it's great to see him recognized.
A lot of kids running around these fields with big dreams in their heads, and Alex has been a guy for over a decade now who's helped people reach those dreams. And I just think that's a really cool thing to be able to do. And then, of course, Threaten Palamo. I mean, what an absolute legend of the game. He helped Utah upset Cal to win the first ever Collegiate Rugby Championship. Kind of a backwards athletic career. I'm going to go play in the World Cup at 19, then go play professionally overseas, then I'll go to college, then I'll walk onto the football team. I mean, it's just, the math isn't mathing. This kid's such a freak. He can do it what he wants, when he wants.
Well, yeah, the original man-child of American rugby, right? So he was. 19 years old, youngest player ever to represent a country in the World Cup.
Wow.
And as you see then, Biarritz, he was in Biarritz for a bit, Bristol, Saracens probably had his most success. And then ultimately to come back here, almost a local boy, finish up his career in MLR with Old Glory DC. So storybook there as well.
And to be inducted into the Hall of Fame right here at the home grounds of Old Glory, D.C., in front of your brothers and friends and family, I think was pretty cool. Well, here's what I want to do, right? Roz and Mags didn't give me what I wanted. They talked about their players. What you got to do, you're a coach, right? There's political strings you got to be aware of. But who's the greatest player of all time? These guys are candidates, all right? Darian's a candidate. Who's the greatest women's player of all time in your mind, Darian Lovelace, here at the Collegiate Rugby Championship? Who is the women's CRC GOAT?
There's way too many to even think of, and we were kind of trying to mention different names, but you've got to give credit to Spiff Cedric. And I think that it's so funny that when she scored that try in that bronze Olympic final for them, she really gave the sport a life. right? She brought the story of women's rugby to the U.S. Alona Mara obviously did her due diligence, right? Set it up, but Spiff was the one that took it upon her shoulders with a nearly 90-meter try and said, I'm about to put U.S. women's rugby on the map. And to be in a position where I can even say that I got to play with her or know her as a person, to me, it feels, I mean, you feel honored by it, but she really gave the sport a moment that is burned into like all of our minds.
Are you tearing up again?
I can't stop.
That's okay. That's okay.
Oh
It's
my
good.
goodness. I get emotional talking about my teammates because you don't expect for the sport to take you as far as it does, and then you look back on it and you see these people
That's why
that
it's the
deserve
sport it is, though. That's why it's the sport it is.
Yes.
The way you're speaking now.
Yes.
You said it
and
would be hard to argue that Spiff
fully.
is the GOAT. I have a feeling that Steve could probably make a pretty cogent argument for one of his former charges, who was Spiff's Olympic teammate.
Yeah, I mean, Sammy Sullivan actually really only had sort of 2 cracks at it, and the year I was coaching, we finished second to Lindenwood was when she's made a name for herself, and we were all robbed of the following year by COVID. And the Army were returning 11 players that next year, and that year Sammy would have really dominated. So probably body of work, Spiff, or there are others, but Sammy was like a shining star. She really only had 1 crack at it, though. So I don't think you could say she was the greatest of all time in the CRC.
But she built something, like she does those Lego sets, that's for sure. Sammy Sullivan and the Legos.
She's an interesting character. Getting married shortly, coming up next month in Hilton Head.
Yes.
Looking forward to that.
How about the men's side? Zach, you've been watching this. You've been a man. You every once in a while, pull your eyes out of the grassroots. I mean, you've been the D3 man, but you pull your eyes out of the grassroots every once in a while, watch some CRC. Who's the best in your eyes?
I got to say, the first person to come to my pen, somebody like I just remember so vividly watching. It was so exciting, and it comes in a pretty kind of a tight, compact package. Devontae Noble was one of my favorite players ever, just lightning in a bottle. So exciting. If he got the ball in his hand, he was gone. He was so speedy. He did some time in the MLR as well, I believe. I think here at DC, but I think he was a wonderful player to watch. And just and excitement anytime you touch the ball. It was wonderful.
No love for the original hot stepper from Kutztown, Tim Acker, about the same height. They had a nice little explosive step. There's maybe
that could be yours, baby. I don't know. That
that's
could be
my deep cut for the Golden Bears fans out there. For your money, Steve.
Yeah, I'm going to be a bit more obvious. So I'm going to go with the sort of what I call the golden generation American Sevens players that were launched by the CRC, by John Prusmack, really, and probably Danny Barrett and Madison Hughes. You can't really look beyond
Harry and Hagrid.
You really can't, because they came and they embodied American Sevens for the next decade, and took us from, as you say, relegation contenders to finishing second one year, and to a certain extent disappointed by not medaling. That's how good USA Sevens got, and those guys were at the heart soul of it.
Yeah, they absolutely were. I mean, that golden generation was fun to watch. And when you say fueled by the CRC, you couldn't be more right. A number of those guys came there. Kayvon was on there. Cody Melfi was on there in 2018. Left, right, and center. Danny Barrett and Madison Hughes were at the heart of that golden generation. And so much fun to watch. I mean, run it straight challenge all time. Danny Barrett. I'm taking him. Him or Alexis Dallas, if she's listening. Him or Alexis Dallas. So the greatest of all time. Well, some people are out here giving us some future candidates to chew on. But one of them might be this guy we're going to take a look at right now, which is Taku Musanguini, the star of the Iowa Central Tritons.
We had a pretty tough last game when we lost 7-12 to Barney's. I'm really thankful that the boys actually went back in, regrouped, and then we came in. It was a really hard game, but we actually fought in and put up a pretty good score. I mean, you're just walking and then, you just got people just asking you, yo, what's good, good game, and all that. And you can sometimes feel it, but yeah, it's something like that. You also got little kids also looking up to you, so you also got to play for them.
He's just an incredible person and a young man. He has so much respect for the game and his teammates, so it's just good karma.
Probably high school, and soon after high school, because just after the U20s I got called up to play for the national team. So there is just something that actually boosted me up to play for the other senior guys. My dad, we're actually like a rugby family, so my dad has actually been playing rugby for so long, and it's something that I just started embarking into, and seeing other kids that are coming up is something that just gives me motivation. They mean the most to me. I mean, from where I started to where I'm at right now, they've been my support, even all the games that I go far or even near, they're always there to support me, so I really greatly appreciate them.
He has a movement that is side to side, forward, backward, like God touched him and said, you're going to be able to move this way. He has so much respect for the game and his teammates. He should play in the MLR. Use your international spot on him. He's an MLR player all the way.
MLR player, that's an understatement to me. Brent Nelson there, the head coach of the Iowa Central Tritons, talking about Taku Musanguini. What a well-spoken, kind, humble young man for somebody who is so fantastic. He's a lightning talent. I know Brent's in a battle to keep him at ICC one more year, and he's got a bunch of four-year schools out here. He's going to have to fight off to do that. Well, let's dig in. There are a couple of teams good enough to get past him, and we are on the precipice of the men's national championship games. We are going to have finally some champions crowned. Let's talk about Men's Premier Cup, and let's cut the BS. Who's going to win this thing? We have got Wheeling, all right, the presumptive favorite, and we have St. Bonaventure coming, the underdog, even if they had to make themselves such in their own minds in order to get here. Who do you like, Zach Lanning?
I thought about it. I've tried every which way to not pick Wheeling, but I have watched them play so much rugby from the Peach Cup, the first tournament out of the spring, where they were just in midseason form, in control from the get-go. They are so good. I cannot not pick Wheeling. Wheeling is my pick to win the whole thing.
Lizard?
Bonnies, baby.
You got to give me some reason.
I think they match up well. I think they're the best defensive team in the tournament. I think they're scrappy physically. They can stay in it. They can starve Wheeling of the ball. I think they've got enough offense themselves. I think their mindset's good. I think Danny Neighbours got them firing. I think they're peaking at the right time. So I'm going Bonnies.
Matchup, I don't see that, right? Manu Tuala, I think, is fantastic. But if I had to list the best 6 players on the field, I'm going Panache Magoragodi. I'm going Shadrach Mendaza. I'm going Joseph I. And it's going to take me a minute to get to somebody not named Manu Tuala who's in there. So I don't know these matchups you're talking about, Lewis.
Don't be seduced by the fairy dust. It's a team game. It's a team game.
And Darian, and please, you're backing me up here. It's the Cards all the way?
I think that the Bonnies could do it only because they are very adaptable, and that's the only reason why I'm saying it. I don't think that Wheeling has faced the competition of teams being able to adapt to how confident they continuously are. If the Bonnies can come in there and they make themselves little menaces, that's the only way that you're going to take down a giant.
Smother them.
All the time. So if the Bonnies can launch, if they can come up as a unified front, the way that they have been doing this whole entire weekend, and if they can find ways to cut corners around them, try your best to not take contact unless you're at the edge. And support has to be there. They've only got a couple of possessions per game that they're really, each time that they have to take advantage of. If they don't establish confidence early on, it's going to be pretty easy to kind of tell who's going to take the game and run with it. I think that those first 5 minutes are going to be so tense, and they're also going to be very telling of how the match will go, depending on if the Bonnies are going to come up. But I'm going to say Bonnies.
Yeah, so you agree then, Bonnies.
I agree. I think Bonnies, but I
don't know about the middle of the desk here, Pat. I think we're going to be pretty right at the end of this.
I think the old print journalist here. This is like the what was it? Who's the guy with the lumberjack that would chop down the trees?
Paul Bunyan.
This is Paul Bunyan against the chainsaw. The print journalists against the digital talking heads. I like us, Zach.
I'm with you all the way.
We
Pat.
are the digital talking heads.
The old money's got the Wheeling Cardinals. Let's stop talking about it and start watching it. More action tomorrow here coming at you from the Maryland Soccerplex, the Collegiate Rugby Championship. For Zach, for Steve, for Darian, this has been the College Rugby Show. Tune in tomorrow.